Did you know that the world produces over 2 billion tons of waste every year? India produces 26,000 tons of just a plastic waste in a day. That is equivalent to 26,000 small cars' weight. Even the most developed nations are struggling to tackle these issues. But there's one small country, Sweden, that has set a remarkable example by turning waste into valuable resource. 99% of their waste gets recycled. Only 1% goes to the landfill. Children are taught waste segregation as subjects along with art and music. In kindergarten only they are taught to make compost. Sweden has one of the most successful waste to energy systems. Instead of waste entering the landfills, they incinerate non-recyclables to generate electricity that heats up homes and offices. And they even run their garbage trucks on gas generated. Before I share my journey with you all, let me talk a little bit about today's topic, which is waste. Actually, my topic more is like waste is not waste unless you waste it. So, did you know that the world produces over 2 billion tons of waste every year? Now, actually, when I use such huge numbers, I myself can't imagine what amount of waste we are talking about. So, for layman terms, let me share with you another data that I have. India produces 26,000 tons of just a plastic waste in a day. That is equivalent to 26,000 small cars' weight. So now I think everybody can imagine what quantity, what humongous nature of waste we are talking about. And we see the consequences every day. Overflowing landfills, pollution everywhere. Even the most developed nations are struggling to tackle these issues. But there's one small country, Sweden, that has set a remarkable example by turning waste into valuable resource. Just a few decades ago, Sweden was facing a serious problem with overflowing landfills. Today, Sweden has become a role model. 99% of their waste gets recycled. Only 1% goes to the landfill. No, they are not teleporting waste to space. It all happened with one simple principle: waste to segregation. Waste segregation. Swedes are required to separate their waste into different bins. They have these bins in various places, even in malls and subways. They use vacuum technology to suck waste directly to the processing plants. They have strict EPR policies, like when someone buys a new computer, he can return the old one and even get a discount. Children are taught waste segregation as subjects along with art and music. In kindergarten only they are taught to make compost. Sweden has one of the most successful waste to energy systems. Instead of waste entering the landfills, they incinerate non-recyclables to generate electricity that heats up homes and offices. And they even run their garbage trucks on gas generated. In fact, Sweden imports waste from neighboring countries like UK and Norway. Sweden's success wasn't just about improving technology or infrastructure. It all started with people. If Sweden hadn't put in place a system that encouraged households and businesses to separate their waste, none of this would have happened. They recognize that emission from waste to energy plants is also not a safe option. Therefore, they encourage new recycling businesses. Recycling reduces the need for raw materials, conserves energy, and reduces deforestation and mining. We can all learn from Sweden's example. If we start segregating our waste properly, whether we are at home or in office or in communities, we can drastically reduce the amount of waste that ends up in landfills. From composting food scraps to recycling paper and plastic, these simple actions can add up to massive positive changes for the environment. Now, let's take a look at the situation in India and many other countries like ours.
Did you know that India consumes 12 million tons of plastic, 11 million tons of paper, and 2 million tons of glass each year? Have you ever wondered what happens when you don't recycle all this waste? Around 6.7 million tons of recyclable waste is dumped in India's unsanitary landfills, leading to severe air pollution and water table contamination.
So let's begin with the situation in our country. India currently generates 62 million tons of waste annually, both recyclable and non-recyclable. But with an annual growth rate of 4% due to changing consumption patterns and rapid economic growth, it is 165 million tons by 2030. So almost double. So what challenges do we face? First and foremost, the biggest challenge in our country is the large population. The huge amount of trash we generate. India is one of the world's top 10 countries for solid waste generation. Urban areas with 377 million people generate about 62 million tons of solid waste, and only 70% is collected, from which only 12% is treated, and the rest dumped in landfills and water bodies. The biggest problem with waste in India is the inadequate waste collection infrastructure and lack of efficient sorting. We have only 21 million garbage collectors when compared to China's, they have 700 million workers. Apart from that, we have poor recycling systems. Only about 30% of the waste is properly sorted, which leads to valuable materials like metal and plastic ending up in landfills or burning up in waste to energy plants or not being recycled. E-waste is also becoming a very big concern. Let's talk about the changes required for proper waste management. First, we need to educate people through community organizations and self-help groups about segregating, recycling, and home composting. There's a need for significant improvement in segregation at source, water, waste collection, treatment practices across the country, strict implementation of waste management rules of year 2016, especially the polluter pays policy or extended producer responsibility. It's crucial to penalize those who don't comply. If we implement waste disposal policies the same way like we have for breaking traffic rules and getting penalized for it, then we wouldn't see abandoned garbage anywhere. We need to encourage decentralized waste management system to manage waste in a better way. It is always better to process waste closer to where it is generated to avoid large transportation costs and easy management. Additionally, we need huge investments in waste treatment technology, such as waste-to-energy plants, composting units, biomethanation systems. We can use machines to collect segregated waste wherever possible, and also coordinating the time of collection with waste generation. Subsidies should be given to companies to make eco-friendly utensils and cutleries. This approach would help lower the cost and encourage widespread adoption too. People often ask me, why am I so much interested in waste management? So let me tell you all what I do and how I began this journey. Like a normal citizen, what we can do. So I'm just showing you an example of that. Actually, I had always admired Afroz Shah and his team, the way they were cleaning the beaches of Mumbai. Their dedication was very inspiring. But it wasn't until I witnessed the pathetic state of Usman Sagar Lake during a morning walk, I truly felt compelled to take action. Garbage and plastic everywhere. I hardly knew anyone who could help. So one contact introduced me to Rashri Penemanini from the Gandipet Welfare Society, an NGO which was already working in waste management near Usman Sagar. She was equally passionate about the cause, and together we organized a massive cleanup drive around the lake. What started as a single initiative quickly became a regular commitment, with cleanup drives taking place almost every weekend. And the best part was that the waste we collected was being processed the right way in one of the GWS units. I was extremely lucky to have found GWS and luckier to join it as a core member. As I continued to participate in these efforts, I began learning more about waste segregation, recycling, the various processes involved in waste management. It was eye-opening to realize how irresponsible I have been in my own habits all these years. I'd always assumed that waste management was something the government was supposed to take care of. After all, I pay taxes. That mindset changed completely when I became part of the children's future or our health. We just tend to ignore it. GWS has 6 locations where one can send their waste for processing for a minimal charge. And I take great pride in knowing that my segregated waste is processed by one of the GWS units where it is transformed into something useful rather than contributing to the landfill. So this is how my journey began into waste management. And these are all the pictures from the cleanup drives we have had during all these years. These are children tied and going down and picking up waste. We always end the cleanup drive with a breakfast. So that's the way we attract people. Loads and loads of plastic and garbage we have picked up around the lake surroundings and from the lake itself. And tons of ghost nets also we have removed from the lake. We have done cleanup drives with schools, school children, offices, even bikers group and village children. They used to join us in the cleanup drives too. Then we have done segregation programs in the villages where we go teach segregation. And these are some of the before and after pictures. And this is my WS family. Without their support and time, we wouldn't have achieved so much. We are just a bunch of committed, crazy volunteers, always looking out for more crazy people like us. I would like to tell you now about my NGO, Gandipet Welfare Society, also known as GWS. All three pictures are self-explanatory, same place, same angle, different times. GWS is a ATG registered NGO working towards zero waste. Through help of donations, we transform landfills into zero waste units. We are one good example of public-private partnership and decentralized waste management. In fact, I feel we are replicating Sweden in a very, very small way. We have converted 6 landfills into sustainable units. We also work with other NGOs to take the initiative forward. This is the transformation of Kunnur's landfill to a M unit, Kunnur in Nilgiris. Wet, dry and reject waste is processed separately and no waste gets wasted. The only reason we can achieve all this is because the waste we receive is already segregated. So now let's see how we can implement these practices in our own lives. First, we have to understand this. Waste management starts at home. To make a real impact, it all starts with how we manage our waste, specifically how we segregate it. So what is waste segregation? It is the process of separating waste material into different categories based on their types, such as organic, recyclable, hazardous, and reject waste. Everybody has heard about the 3-bin rule. Biodegradable or organic waste, that's a green bin. Food remains, puja flowers, hair, eco-friendly cups and plates, all goes there. Recyclable bin or the blue bin is paper, plastic, cardboard, metal, batteries, electronic waste, chemicals. And the red bin is the reject waste, which is all the hazardous items, single-use plastic, sanitary napkins, diapers, blades, syringes, medicines, all that goes in the red bin because it cannot be recycled. The green bin or wet waste can be composted or used for producing bioenergy. The blue bin waste is sorted and recycled. Recycling saves a lot of raw material and energy. For example, recycling aluminium saves up to 95% of the energy when compared to creating new aluminium from raw materials. E-waste also goes there. And then there's the red bin waste. What do we do with that, which we cannot recycle it, so we incinerate it. Proper segregation makes the recycling process easier and more effective, ensuring that recyclable materials don't end up in landfills. Mixed waste often leads to contamination, making it difficult to separate materials later on. This decreases the overall efficiency of recycling programs. Just think, if everyone separated their waste, we could massively cut down the volume that is sent to landfills. Sweden has reduced it to 1%. So can we? Here I would like to show you how we do wet waste processing at our units. Since we cater to larger number of communities, we use aerobic composting method. It does require a lot of space, but it's a very simple process. No rocket science at all. Generally, it takes 30 to 40 days for the compost to be ready. You must be thinking, what do we do if we don't have such units nearby? Well, you could do home composting. Variety of bins are available in the market for this. Or community-wise, you can invest in waste composting machines. The only drawback is that the compost that you get from those is not of great quality and it's not energy efficient. But again, it's far more better than burning the landfills. And here we see that the compost that we get, this is a very, very high quality compost that we get here. We have already gotten it tested also. Dry waste. Dry waste also gets processed in our units. They are segregated and baled accordingly and sent to recyclers. We have dedicated workers sorting and segregating the dry waste. Fortunately, our awareness programs have taught the surrounding villages and communities to segregate their waste properly before sending it to us. Other options for dry waste disposals are the local Radiwalas. And then there are companies like Crab Bin and Bintex. Usually they come home and even pay for your dry waste. Coming to the reject waste. We incinerate the reject waste in a PCB approved incinerator. The good thing about this is that it does not use any fuel, and ash is the only residue that we get, which we use in making ash bricks. What can you do where you don't have such facilities for this kind of waste? You can hand it over to the municipality. Either it goes to the landfill or waste to energy plants. This way of segregation helps reduce the amount of trash drastically. Only the reject waste goes to the landfills. Solution like waste to energy plants may seem like a step in the right direction, but we need to take a closer look at this, at the real impact. Yes, we see landfills and dump yards piling up, and we feel sorry for the polluted beaches, riverbanks, lakes, but that's a visible problem, the one we can react to. What we often fail to see is the invisible cost, the toll the waste to energy plants and the landfills may be taking on our health, on our future. Did you know human ingests 5 grams of plastic every week? Hard to believe, yes, but we do. And it's not just humans who are suffering. Every living being is at our mercy. Animals too are enduring health issues like cancers and tumors. 100,000 animals die from plastic entanglement each year. Marine life is choking because of our carelessness, with plastic found inside creatures that once thrived freely in the oceans. The future of our planet and all its species depends on the action we take today. It's not just trash. It is a ticking time bomb for our health and the planet's future. Sorting out waste into different bins should become second nature to us. But won't it be better if we reduce the amount of waste we create in the first place? There's a limit to the amount of garbage that can be picked and processed. In my opinion, waste management or recycling is not the only solution we need. We need to work actively on reducing the waste we generate. Yes, waste segregation can help to an extent, but honestly, the problem is that even if one person mixes the garbage in the group, it will derail all the efforts. If we really want to make a difference, we need to think about our waste before we even create it.